Welcome to episode 8 of the Holistic Nutrition Hub podcast, the show where we discuss all the important topics that will help you succeed in the nutrition industry. On this week's episode, Lynne interviews Stephanie Long about how to conduct successful client sessions. Stephanie is a business coach for nutritionists and is a registered holistic nutritionist herself. She specializes in helping her clients take the guesswork out of building the foundational steps to their business so that they feel confident moving forward in their new career. She leads her clients through a step-by-step process of helping them to set up their business basics, get clear on their messaging, develop their unique offerings, and learn how to coach nutrition clients with confidence. If you're just starting out as a practitioner and aren't sure what to do before or during your client sessions, this is an episode you absolutely don't want to miss. Stephanie didn't hold anything back in this interview. She shares her valuable insights on many hot topics, such as whether or not you should offer services for free when getting started, how you can easily create a better relationship with your clients, why finding your niche is one of the most important steps you need to take as a new practitioner, how you should prepare for a successful client session, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes and support us by giving us a 5-star review. Enjoy the episode, guys.
Hey, Stephanie. So thanks for joining us today on the Holistic Nutrition Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So I just wanted to start off with you explaining a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you got started. Do you want to jump right in there?
Sure. So again, my name's Stephanie. I am a business coach for nutritionists, but I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. So I took Canadian School of Natural Nutrition back in 2013. I graduated in 2014. And then I went on the journey of building my business. Basically, right as I got out of school, I was super excited to jump right in and start seeing clients and wanted to share my passion for nutrition with others. But when I first started out, I was pretty lost. I wasn't really sure what to do to build my business. I didn't know all the steps I needed to take. So it took me about a year to get all the pieces of my business actually put in place to a point where I felt like, okay, I'm ready to start. I'm ready to start seeing clients. I feel like I've got this, but it took me that first year. So, from that point on, I just started growing my one-on-one consulting nutrition business through clients and workshops. And I even started teaching at CSNN. And then I got more into the business side of things where I was doing business kind of mentorship with new grads and students. And I was kind of starting off with like coffee chats. So we'd go for like what I thought would be like a 30-minute coffee. And then it'd be 4 hours later, we'd be planning out their entire business. So this started kind of just happening and snowballing on its own. And then it got to the point where I was doing paid business mentorship sessions. And then I started teaching workshops. And then it's to the point now where I'm not actually seeing nutrition clients anymore. I am full on business coaching with nutritionists on building their business. And I teach at CSNN doing the Fundamentals of Business course. And I also have an online program.
Amazing. So you started off as a nutritionist doing consultations, and that's morphed you into a business coach.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today, but I think that I actually needed the journey of becoming a nutritionist to become the business coach. Like, I think that's where I'm meant to be. And this is really my zone of excellence and where I'm really, really good at helping other people. Like, it's the area that I really excel in, but I needed nutrition to get me there. And, I became a nutritionist because I had my own health issues. Like I'm sure many of you guys also have. I had chronic migraines and really bad digestive issues. So that's what propelled me to do nutrition. And then it just kind of kept snowballing from there. I had no idea it would turn into this, but I'm really happy it did.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how we start out as full-fledged, like I'm going into this because this is what I need to do for myself. Mm-hmm. And then you think your career path is going to take you into becoming a nutritionist. But I think we kind of forget, and I'm sure you see this with your mentorship people that you have, where we kind of pick up these other skills along the way and find our niche, which can be anything. And I feel like we kind of have this idea when we go to school that we're going to be a nutritionist, but there's so many things that we can be doing with our businesses, kind of outside of nutrition, but still within the nutrition realm.
Yeah, it's so true. And I don't think I actually realized in school that I wanted to do this as a business. I think it just got to the point at the end, like the end of the course, where I was like, oh, okay, like this seems like the most logical step for me to take, but I didn't really know what steps to take. So like I didn't really know what was happening. I kind of just keep going with the flow, and then things keep evolving as they do, to the point where now I'm doing business coaching. But yeah, you don't really know what shape it's going to take. And that's kind of the exciting thing about it. You kind of just have to keep saying yes to all these different doors that are opening and trying different things out, so you find that place you feel, I guess, the most comfortable in.
For sure. And I think my story is pretty similar to that too, in terms of, I started out as a nutrition consultant, and now I'm, in a sense, helping nutritionists along the way as well. But my other business has nothing, well, I guess it is related to nutrition, but isn't a conventional consulting practice. So when did you start your nutrition business coaching?
So I started doing business coaching, I guess technically the first year that I started teaching at CSNN. So like I graduated 2014, started teaching 2015, and I'll kind of give a backstory of that. I'll try not to ramble on, but the backstory of how I even started teaching is that when I was building my business in that kind of year period, 2014 to 2015, I started connecting with a lot of people. I was living in Edmonton at the time, and I was connecting with a lot of people who had just graduated, and became really close friends with a few nutritionists who were also building their business. And for some reason, I don't know why this kept happening, but they kept coming to me because they saw that I was, I guess, making progress and really was like good at understanding what needed to happen next, and getting to know like the step-by-step process. So even though it was taking me a long time, they were still looking at me because I guess I was a little bit further along than where they were. So I had a friend say, you're really good at like all of this business, setup details, and you're really good at explaining it and breaking it down. Like perhaps you should contact the CSNN branch and see if you can teach the business class. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. And I guess that's part of my personality, where when things open up for me, I say yes. I will get in my head sometimes, but a lot of the time I'll say yes and then think, oh, what did I just commit to before, where a lot of people will sit on it and weigh the, I guess, consequences, or weigh, like, should I do this? Should I not? Where I just jump into it. So I contacted the branch manager. There just happened to be an opening for the business class. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this. Like something was calling me to do it. And so I taught it the first year, and it went really, really well. And I guess I connected really well with the students. So they naturally just started, after they graduated, saying, hey, can we go for coffee? Can I pick your brain? So I did a lot of like pick your brain sessions where we'd sit down and I'd help to guide them kind of look at the vision of their business, and then where they needed to start it and how they needed to grow it. So I did these like free sessions for the first year, and then I did many of them. So then the next year, because I didn't want to burn out, because I had taken on, nutrition clients, workshops, and now this kind of, I guess, coaching or mentoring aspect, I didn't want to burn out. So I started charging just a minimal amount and did that for a year. And then the year after, because I was getting so much interest, I started running workshops. So I was doing the same content I was doing one-on-one, but in a workshop setting. And then that naturally brought me to creating an online program, which we can talk about in a bit. But it just kind of was this like progression that I wasn't actually expecting. And I got to this crossroads about a year ago where I had actually moved. I now live in Victoria, BC, and I had moved, and I was kind of restarting my nutrition business here, but also my business coaching. And just thought, which way do I want to go with this? And something was pulling me to drop the nutrition consulting and continue on with the coaching. So that's exactly what I did. I jumped right in, and I've been doing coaching now for the past year with many different private clients and my online program. And then I also still teach at CSNN doing the fundamentals of business.
Awesome. I just have to ask, Oh, I'm going to there's a bit of feedback. Oh, it's better now. I'm just going to ask, like, do you feel like the way that you did how do I word this? The way that you progress through, having free sessions to paid sessions to, I'm sure this is all outlined in your business course, but I feel like that's kind of the natural progression of the way that most nutritionists kind of start. Like, you start with like a free group of people and then paid one-on-one sessions and then going on to workshops and that kind of thing. Do you feel like that's kind of a natural progression that people either should go through or it just kind of happens that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I'm kind of on both. I can understand how that makes sense, doing free and moving into paid and then going from there, because you want to have proof of concept with your clients. So like, by say turning something into a workshop, you want to know that it's actually wanted and needed, right? You need to have that proof that people want that. So by seeing a ton of clients and going through those issues with them and then turning it into a workshop because you know that there's proof that they want that makes a lot of sense to me. But as for the free consultations, I know that it's a good way to potentially grow your business because you're gaining the like, know, and trust factor by putting yourself out there, by kind of giving people a glimpse into what you offer. But from my experience, it actually burns you out a lot if you're doing too many free things. Not only burns you out energetically, but financially as well. And then the other thing that I always teach my coaching clients is that when you give something for free, people don't always show up in the way that they would if they had paid. So what I mean is like, and just an example is, when I first started my consulting practice and I was doing a 3-month, I was offering 3-month program with me for nutrition consulting. And when I first started, I set that up at around the $500 mark for 3 months. And I thought, at first I was thinking, who's even going to pay $300 or sorry, $500, who's going to pay that? And I had that nervousness feeling of like, am I worth that? What can I give to them? And was really doubting myself. So I priced it what I now consider is quite low. And I put so much energy and effort into each client that at the end of the day, I was probably making like $5 an hour. I was making like under minimum wage. And I was pouring so much energy into it. And my clients weren't even really showing up in the way that they should have been. And I feel like it's because I priced it lower, because then what I ended up doing was, I must have been about a year later, I put it up to around the $800 mark and I saw better progress. I was feeling more valued. And then closer to the end of my consulting career, I put it up to about the 3-month package to about $1,100 or $1,150. And I felt like I was being really valued at this point. It was enough money for me at where I felt I was at. And all of my clients showed up because they were all putting some skin in the game. It was priced a bit higher. Like that's a big investment for some people. They're pulling out the credit card more than likely. But that's when everybody showed up and did the work and actually put the energy in to, make changes in their life. So going back to what you asked, I think it's a potentially good model, but if you're going to do it that way, I would only do it for a very short period of time or only bring in, do that for the first 3 clients and then move to a paid model, because you don't want to burn out and you also want people to make changes. So you have to hold them to that kind of accountability standard of paying a little bit so that they're putting some skin in the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I kind of had a similar situation where I ended up actually not continuing my consulting practice because I felt like nobody ever did show up. Not that I don't think I underpriced what I was doing, but I think where I was located mattered, the quality of the client. So I was working out of a gym and I felt like a lot of the referrals I was getting were people who were being referred to me by personal trainers, or they had like a free consultation with like a 3-month package at the gym or something like that. And so the quality of the clients wasn't really in alignment with what I was looking for. And I think that's where a business coach or either a business course to help you kind of figure out those things along the way is really important for people. It's one of the things that I figured out on my own, but if you have somebody there to guide you through those little predicaments or kind of also helping you through the mental aspect of you're not an imposter.
Yeah.
You do have worth of some capacity. I mean, you graduated, so you have something, and just how to put that into like a specific niche or into where you feel you're meant to be working is really important. So
Yeah, I agree.
I definitely think that's where a business coach comes in. And I myself had one for a while. Everybody needs a coach, right?
Coaches need coaches. I think we
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about your business course?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically all that information, like I said, I was doing those coffee chats with people, then I turned it into one-on-one, and then I turned it into workshops on building your business. I was saying essentially the same information over and over and over, and it was getting a little tiring, to be honest. And I wanted to reach more people because at this point I was only doing local kind of consulting or coaching with people. So I thought, well, why don't I just take all of this information that I've really had this proof of concept with. I've run it so many times and I've seen so many people take this information and run with it and actually start booking clients in and making progress. Why don't I turn this into an online program? So not only can I conserve my energy, but I can reach more people. So last year I created Nutrition Business Building Program. It is an online program that walks basically a new grad or somebody that maybe graduated but never really started their business. It walks you through how to get really clear on your intentions behind your business. So I don't go so far into niching and figuring out exactly who you want to work with, but I help you to get an idea of who you want to start working with, how you want to work as a practitioner, what kind of qualities you have that will actually really be beneficial and that you want to highlight. And then we move into setting up all your business foundation, like your how to choose a business name, how to get insurance, how to get kind of all your forms created, set up your invoices and expense spreadsheet. And I give you copies of all of these things as well, so you don't have to get started on them on your own. So they're not online like your guys' forms, which is incredible. Your client just fills them out and they get sent back to you. These ones are just paper forms, but it's still a step to help you actually begin a little bit quicker. And then I go heavily into, how does the client onboarding process look like? I know that I always wondered, so what does it look like to work with a client? So I talk a lot about my experience and other people's experience bringing a client on, walking them through how to actually how to sign them up, how to accept payment, how to schedule them in, and then what do you do in a first session, and how to actually coach that client, and then how do you create a client health plan. So it goes over kind of like the overarching, what does it look like to be a nutritionist and how do you do it? And it's all video based and workbook based. So you actually walk yourself through it. And then I have a Facebook group to help give some extra support if you have individual questions you want to dig into a bit deeper.
Amazing. I'm just looking at the website right now. And so you get like a step-by-step guidance, online training portal, 25 coaching videos, 30 downloadable workbooks, handouts and guides, customizable templates, which you talked about, health plans, or examples of those health plans and handouts, and then the private Facebook group. That's amazing. That's crazy. How long did it take you to put all that together, girl?
Oh, it's funny. I recorded another video this morning for another company, and they were asking me the same thing. And I said, well, the actual doing it didn't take me a long time. Like the videos, I recorded all the videos in 2 days. And then the workbooks took me about a week to 2 weeks, and all the forms and handouts. I had a lot of it from previously coaching people, but that didn't take the most time. What honestly took the most time was getting over my fear gremlins in my head saying, you're not good enough. Why should you do this? Someone else could do it better. Who knows if this is wanted? Even though I had so many other opportunities to get that confidence and proof that it was wanted and needed, I still was going through that feeling of, this is going to be really difficult. It's going to be so hard. And I was making excuses, right? I spent a lot of time in that energy. Mm-hmm. And then when I actually created it, I was like, wow, this is so easy. Like stupid simple to actually put it together. All I did was used my photo booth on my Mac and recorded the videos. I used QuickTime to edit them. I used Teachable for my platform, and that's literally like a drag and drop. You put your video in and then you add your files. I used Canva to create all my files. So it wasn't really difficult in the creation. It was just that mindset piece I had to get over, which I know a lot of us struggle with. But once I did it, I was like, it's so much scarier when you build something up to be scary than actually doing it. And now I'm actually in the process of creating 2 more courses, and I'm sure I will create more because I actually love creating courses now, but I would have never known that if I didn't take that plunge and just say, I'm going to try it, even if it's not perfect.
I feel like the things that feel the scariest are the direction that we're actually meant to go.
Yeah.
The most intimidating thing, because I also teach at CSNA in Vancouver, and I think I love teaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. Just helping people, period, is my favorite thing to do. But before I started teaching there, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be good at this. Nobody's going to like my class. I'm going to be horrible.
Yeah.
All these other teachers who do teach this course already are going to they're way more qualified than I am. What do I have to offer? And then I did it and I was like, okay, I am meant to do this. People loved what I did.
Yeah.
But what, I guess in saying this, I have to ask, when you coach one-on-one, is this something that you help people kind of work through, the energy and the feelings and the mental, struggles that we have? Is that something that you offer in your coaching program?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely. I definitely do. Even kind of to backtrack a little bit, I found that when I was doing my nutrition consulting, it kind of I don't know if this is the right word, but the guise was that I was doing nutrition. That's what people were coming to me for. They wanted nutrition help. But what I was actually doing was essentially life coaching or goal coaching or goal setting, habit building, right? So it was nutrition, but what I was actually doing was building them up as a person. So that's exactly what I do in my business coaching. We do all the, you get the tangible fundamental steps of building your business, creating your vision, creating your offerings, but there's always resistance that comes up with that. Always. Not one client that I've worked with hasn't had resistance. Even the people who are on Oprah or, whoever have resistance, right? It's just about, number one, having a support system, having a cheerleader, having a mentor or someone there to say, I know it's scary, but it, just like you said before, the scariest things are the things that are most worth it, right? So it's being that support for someone, but then also guiding someone through that, talking to them and getting them to figure out why. Because the thing is, as we come up against challenges in our business, we're going to hit those blocks more and more and more. The more we're growing, it doesn't just go away. You're not like, hey, I'm good now. I know how to do this thing. And I'm not fearful. It does come up. So it's learning kind of, or understanding why you as a person have these thoughts and feelings around something. So it really does become about mindset coaching or life coaching, in the sense that it's not just okay, so you're fearful, don't do it. It's well, why? And let's actually investigate this together. And I always make it really clear that I'm there for my client 100% to help them through the process, because they're the most important thing. Even when it comes to nutrition consulting, which I'm sure we're going to get to this a little bit more later on, but it's always about the client's experience, and we're there as a helper. We're there to facilitate this, and we're there as a safe space for them, but it's not about us making them transform. It's about us giving them space to do it themselves.
That is a very powerful statement. I think that's very true, is that we go in, or at least when I first started going in, it was about, I would say for sure, it was about me getting them to do something. And that's when you get the resistance on their end. So you're almost forcing this idea on them when really they should be trying to make these habit changes and these behavior changes on their own and working through these issues themselves. Excuse me. And so this is definitely a good lead in to what you have coming up in terms of creating a client session mini course, correct?
Yeah. So basically, like I said, my nutrition business building program is more of like, I call it like a one-stop program, you know, when you start out, and it kind of helps to lead you through all the points that you have to think about and help you to start putting them into progress. But this client sessions mini course that I'm creating, it goes a lot deeper into, you know, how to actually work with clients, you know, what that looks like, because maybe you've already got all the fundamentals of your business set up and you don't need that from the nutrition business building program, but you want to know, like, maybe you're still scared to work with clients, or you've been having some client sessions and they're not going well, or you don't know like how to create a health plan. Like I'm creating this to give people, you know, not only my perspective on it, but I have a lot of guest videos as well with people in the industry who have a lot of experience working with clients, because I think we learn through other people a lot of the time. And I know for me, like all I wanted when I graduated was to peek into someone else's business, because I wanted that, I guess, validation that what I was doing was the right thing. So I'm creating this course not necessarily as like validation, but as like a resource that you can dip into when you need it and actually see how other people run sessions. Because maybe you can make your process easier or better, or maybe you can take a little bit of pressure off of yourself, because I know a lot of people think they have to give a, you know, 8-page handout, like a case study that we create, where in my experience, giving that does not work.
No, not at all.
I did that with my virtual clients. I'm like, you know, you're using aspartame. Here's why aspartame's bad. Here's a research article, and like a whole thing on aspartame, which is one section of the many things I want to go into. But I've already lost my client when I've put too much energy into one thing. So what I then started doing was creating more of like, kind of like what you would see from maybe a naturopath. I don't know about a doctor, but maybe like a physio or someone, where they give you more of like a 1 page of goals. And then I would do all the teaching in person. So I essentially started giving health plans that were like something they could put on their fridge and they could refer back to, and they weren't having to read pages and pages of reports or articles. But if they were interested in that, I would always give them resources. So I'm really taking, you know, my experience and knowledge and creating a program that is really easy for someone to just jump into and learn what to do without essentially making the same mistakes that a lot of us make when we start out.
Yeah, for sure. And I can, again, agree with everything that you're saying in terms of giving too much information to your client and overwhelming them. And I think that, in a sense, case studies are great to understand the start to finish and the, you know, pathological reasons for perhaps the conditions or issues that they're having. But we're really meant to diffuse that information that we've learned and put it into a clear practice. So I did a similar thing when I first started out. I definitely did not give them a case study, but I would give them, you know, like, here's what we're going to be doing. Maybe it was too much information. And what I actually ended up moving towards was a coaching package instead of, you know, we're going to clear out your cupboards and we're going to give you 4 weeks of meal plans and I'm going to do all these assessments on you. I ended up, you know, just making a really clear questionnaire to find out what their biggest issues were. And then over the next 4 weeks, we got, you know, 45-minute session together. They had one goal to work on. And usually it was the simplest thing, like, you're drinking juice in the morning and your goal is to lose weight. So they're having like juice in the morning and then 4 or 5 coffees and then wine. But it wouldn't be cutting out all of those things at once. It would be like, okay, we're going to switch up your juice in the morning for water.
Yeah.
And that's literally what they would have to work on for a week. And honestly, the best results that I got were from the people who had the simplest behavior changes possible. I found that coaching was just a very important part of it, more than the information that we were necessarily giving them.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point. It's honestly like I don't know, I'm trying to give it a number, but like 90% coaching and like 10% information. We have to remember that there's kind of two parts to this answer, but we have to remember that a lot of people, when they sign up with us, they're not necessarily signing up because we have the best information or the best package. A lot of the time they're signing up because they like you as a person. So they're really buying into you. So if you're just kind of spewing information and making it all about like the data, they're not getting that relationship, because that's why people are coming to a nutritionist versus maybe a naturopath or a doctor, because they might not be getting the time that they need or that they desire to talk through these issues. So if you're just another person that's kind of, I guess, talking over them, you're not giving them that space that they need to actually feel heard and listened to. So that really comes back to the coaching. That feeling of, listening to other people, asking the guiding questions, digging a little bit deeper, like that is so important. And then also, I love how you said, giving them one goal or making it like stupid simple, like just making it so simple. Yes, because and I used to be like, here's like 7 goals to work on this week when I first started out. And the person's like, I could only do like 1. And then they feel like a failure. They don't want to show up. They don't want to put the work in because they can't live up to your expectations, right? So it's remembering that it's like, again, about the client. So what do they need? And I know for myself, like it's, hard for me to implement more than, let's say, 2 or 3 goals in 1 week. Like that is a huge win. So what I ended up doing with clients, again, just like you, I would do, between 1 to 3 goals that we work on every week together. And I check in with them at the beginning of the week, give them some goals, and then they'd follow up with me at the end of the week, and they tell me where they're doing really well, maybe where they are struggling a bit, how their maybe digestion is, how their energy is, whatever questions I wanted to ask them specifically. But what I would do is, instead of just saying, okay, well, you struggled with not getting enough, not eating breakfast this week, and being like, oh, well, that's too bad. I guess you're just never going to eat breakfast, like instead of just kind of living with those circumstances, I always said, what can we do to make that struggle into a win? And always looked at, trying to change that aspect, because if you don't address that struggle that person has, that's always going to be a struggle for that person. So even though it might not be like they lose, like maybe their goal is to lose 50 pounds and you don't get them to lose 50 pounds, maybe they lose 10 or 20, like who knows? But if you can highlight that they've changed so much in so many other ways, like maybe they have more energy, they can play with their kids, they're not drinking coffee at 3 p.m., they're not, like all those potential habits that they were using to mask some of their symptoms. And you can highlight that they've changed so much. That is a huge win, because they're changing their entire life. So it doesn't just become about, quick fixes or quick wins. It's like, how can you actually coach and transform someone's life and create that relationship with them so they feel comfortable with you and so they can trust you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what I was going to lead into. That is, I find that when I'm looking at a lot of RHN Facebook groups or nutrition groups, I see people saying things like, oh, just do this, this, and this, and this for them. And I always have to point out, like the first thing that I always have to point out to them is, hey, you got to remember the journey that you went through to get where you're at now. I feel like sometimes we get on our holistic nutrition high horse and we imagine that we're perfect in every way possible. I do it myself. I'm guilty of it. I do it with my mom. I do it with my family. Not the greatest thing to do. Don't do it. But I feel like when somebody comes to us with a problem, we look at it and we go, yeah, it's a simple fix. Just do it. Like, what are you waiting for? But if I sit back and I go, okay, I've been in this business for almost 7 years. I'm still not perfect, and I'm still on my health journey, and just taking that step back to remember like how we got here, what steps we had to take, what mindset changes we had to make, and I think that's really important to take into a client session with you.
Totally. Well, yeah. And I know me personally, and I'm sure many of you guys, but feel this way too. But, I connect with people through vulnerability, through humanness. I like when somebody is, natural and themselves, online or through Facebook lives or through Instagram stories. Like, I really like that. That's how I connect with people. And I wouldn't connect with like nutrition or fitness superstar who's like, I do 1,000 crunches a day and like drink green juice 4 times a day. Like, I couldn't keep up with that. Like, that would just be insane for me. And I don't connect to that. I need to connect with someone who does have mess ups or has experienced, points where maybe they've fallen off track, or maybe their mindset's not in the right place, because that's my journey. So like, I always, people who I work with, I want to see myself reflected in them. So I know that can be an issue for a lot of grads that want to show that they don't want to be vulnerable in the sense where it looks like they're not an expert or they don't have their stuff figured out. So what I'm not saying like you have to share all your vulnerable moments or something you're currently going through. But what you can really help people with is, let's just say you started your health journey at step 1 and now you feel like you're on step 5 or 6 because, you've made all these changes. You've maybe cut certain things out that weren't agreeing with you, like healthy foods you can add in. So you're kind of at step 6. So you might actually fall off the wagon once in a while, but it's not like you go back to step 1. You might go down to step 4 or 5 because you can bounce back. You have all the fundamentals already set up for yourself. So with your clients, you're going to start them on step 1 and bring them up from there. And you're going to show them that even though you're maybe at step 5 or 6, it doesn't take you back to step 1 and you have to start again. You're showing them that you can have resilience and you can have bounce back, and that, life is always a journey. Like if we were at level 10 or step 10, how do we grow and change from there? So what you're doing is just guiding them from kind of where you used to be and guiding them to where you are now. And you don't have to worry that if you mess up or if you're not 100% with your diet or your health, that you're a failure or you're an imposter. You're simply human. And that's how you're going to connect with not only your clients, but your potential clients, by sharing your message online that nobody's perfect and it's all about progress and not about perfection.
100%. I just have to share this because, we're sharing. I had a client come to me the other day. So a meal prep client come to me the other day and he's like, Lynn, I honestly cannot eat any more zucchini. He's like, I look at it and it makes me nauseous and I don't know what it is about the zucchini, but I just have to tell you that. And I felt in that moment, I laughed because I was like, he feels comfortable enough to tell me that when he looks at zucchini, he's feeling sick. And I was like, and I don't even see this client. Most of my clients aren't home when I'm there cooking for them, but I felt really fortunate. That doesn't even give the right tone to it, but really happy that he felt comfortable enough to come to me and share that vulnerable moment with me. And I've never shared anything vulnerable with him necessarily. And so I was just really happy that he felt comfortable enough to do that.
Totally. Well, I think that goes to show that your relationship with clients, like you leave that space for them to feel like they can say that, because you are so approachable and you are like that warm personality, right? So it's about using your personality traits that you already have as an advantage in your coaching versus trying to push away who you naturally are, right? And that's how you're going to attract people that are just like you, or people that feel comfortable sharing, their thoughts and feelings about zucchini, because they feel comfortable enough to say that versus, just never call you back and just cancel all of your sessions because they don't connect with you, right? We want to work with the people who can tell us, when they need something to look different for them.
For sure. And that I think is super important. So I just want to go over what we had talked about prior to our little chat here and make sure we kind of covered everything. But if there's anything that you wanted to add back into what your client session course is going to look like, but it will be essentially how to guide coach effectively. So giving the practitioner a clear picture of how to figure out what their client needs and wants are, how to meet the client where they're at, and then how to put the client in the driver's seat, essentially what is the role as a practitioner within this space.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to point out, this is one of my favorite I don't know if it's really a saying, but my favorite things to say when you're talking about like putting the client in the driver's seat. Something I heard a long time ago was a lot of the time we think that, 60 to 70% of the client experience is like our knowledge. And then, some of that 10-20% is, like all of the offerings we can give them. And then 10% is, them showing up for themselves. Where what we really need to do is actually flip it on its head and remember that 80% of the client's experience is how much work they're willing to put in and how much, energy they're putting in. 10% is our expertise and knowledge, and then 10% is us just being there for them. So it can't be all about us pushing the client so much and like filling in for the client. Like we can't like overcompensate for the client. They need to show up and do the work, but we need to create the atmosphere that they feel comfortable to do that in. So yeah, definitely like we need to figure out, what are their needs and wants? How can we meet them where they're at? And then how can we actually encourage them to make the changes that they want to make instead of us forcing them to do that?
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if a client's not ready to make these changes, they're not going to do it. And I think that is a really important lesson for most practitioners when they're first starting out. I'm sure all of the well-seasoned ones or who have been around for a few years have already learned that really important lesson. But if somebody's not ready to change, they're not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this yesterday myself. I was talking to somebody on a Facebook group, and he was fighting with me about what foods had omega-3s in them. And he was just so stuck in his like mindset. He was not willing to change his ideas regardless of what anybody said. And, those are the moments where you maybe not necessarily give up on them, but come to recognize like he's come in here looking for a fight purposely.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if that was a coaching client, you would be like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of resistance. Like what's going on here? But on a Facebook group too,
Yeah,
you can't really change anything. But yeah, in a coaching session, like that would be the time to kind of figure out like, what's the resistance? Why is that not working for you? Maybe what can you change within yourself as a practitioner to meet them again where they're at?
Yeah.
To change those mindsets. But eventually, it might boil down to the fact that that's not the right client for you.
Totally. Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's why it's so important to get so clear on like not only who you want to work with, but like how you want to work with people. So like you can put on your website, like, I love working with people who show up, who do the work, who, I don't know, if you're really hardcore, you can say, have no excuses, like you can set the terms for like what you want to look. I don't work with people, or this program is not for you if you don't want to make changes, or you hold a lot of resistance, or you are combative. Like, you get to set the tone of what clients you want to work with, because there's enough people in the world to work with all different types of people. So if you don't want to work with someone who is resistant to change and who's fighting you at every single point that you're making, you don't have to work with them. There's someone else who's probably going to love working with that client, who wants to do that fight and who wants to push, and have that like back and forth, but that doesn't have to be you. So you get to really decide, who it is you want to be working with. So I do talk about that in the client session course as well, getting clear on your intentions and more even like a niche, getting more specific on what demographic of people you want to work with. So you can, use your skills to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that you make, is that there are enough people in the world that you can be choosy about who you want. Do you want to work with really high-end clients? Do you want to work with people who are just suffering from digestive issues? Like, you can get pretty specific on who you want and not ever have to worry about not having enough clients. I think that's kind of one of the things that we do to pigeonhole ourselves into not being happy with what we're doing, because we are picking people who are not necessarily a good fit for us.
Yeah. And it's your business, right? So you really get to decide who it is you want to be working with. And you don't, like, I think a lot of us get so fearful that, if we get super specific with our niche or our vision or our like specific client we want to be working with, that we won't have any clients. And we're like, but we want to help everyone. But sometimes when you put a message out there, like, I help with health and wellness and I want you to feel better. And, I'm a nutritionist and can help you with meal planning or whatever it is. Like, so that's not really engaging enough for someone to say, hey, I really need what Lynne has to offer. I really need what Stephanie has to offer, because we're not being specific enough. We're being a bit general. And, if somebody has, let's say, fibromyalgia or MS or an autoimmune issue like Hashimoto's, we want to go to a specialist. We don't want to go to a generalist. So you're going to probably see that time and time again. People are maybe interested and they're like, oh, I want to work with a nutritionist, but they don't follow through and book in. It might be because you're not clear enough about what you can do to actually, help that person. You're not showing a solution to their problems. And when we're staying so general, we have to have a million solutions. So that's why it's actually advantageous to you to get more specific, so you can get really, really good at one or two things and not have to have the solution for MS, fibromyalgia, eczema, and, Hashimoto's. Like, you don't need to be the expert in everything. And that takes a lot of pressure off the plate when you don't have to worry about a client coming in and you having to scramble and do a bunch of research. You kind of get to set the tone for what it is that you want to focus on in your business.
Yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, exactly. Like, I think one of the biggest or scariest moments for me was when I started coaching and not necessarily having plans or set things, was, like, if somebody came in with fibromyalgia, like, what was I going to tell them? Because I didn't feel like I was well versed enough in that. And so being generalized was a lot harder than actually having a specific thing to talk about and know 100% like, this is what I want to focus on. I found that was a really big struggle for me, because I always felt like I had to say, okay, well, here's what I can generally do for you. I'll email you tonight. And then I'd run home and like look at my books.
Yeah. And then
like, I got to study.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Well, and it ends up being more work for you too in the long run, because you're literally refocusing yourself every single client that you have. Whereas when you get really good, it's almost like, I don't want to say having a script, but it's almost like having a set, like, this is what I do, this is what I'm going to help you with. And then you don't have to rewrite it every single time that you sit down with a client. Generally, people with, let's say, like eczema or fibromyalgia are going to need the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And so you can have your forms, you can have your process, and you can have it really solidified. And that not only saves you time, but makes it so much less stressful. And I think people stop consulting because it becomes such a hassle to rewrite that script every single time.
Yeah, no, you're so right. Yeah. And it's just bringing me back to the time before, when I first started and was trying to accommodate everyone else. And then I kind of just started working with clients that fit my vision and needs a little bit more. And that didn't mean that clients stopped coming in. They were coming in even more, because I was clear on how I could help them and what I was really good at. And I wasn't trying to, I guess, in a sense, like pretend to be something that I wasn't. So it took a lot of pressure off me to be like, I'm really good at these things, and maybe I'm not so good at these other things. But that's why you should come up with a really good referral system for other practitioners to be able to say, that's not really my area of specialty, but I do know somebody that could be a really great fit for you. And by referring to someone else, you actually gain credibility, because you're being positioned as an expert, because you're putting yourself in the seat of, potentially that client could come back to you at another point if you aligned better. You're not just letting them down and saying, I can't help you. You're giving them a referral that's going to actually strengthen their life and maybe strengthen the relationship you have with them as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think you say a really important thing too, in the fact that, like, a consult isn't just a consult for the client to meet you, it's for you to meet them, and whether or not that client's going to be a good fit for you. And yeah, referring them out if you feel like there's either a personality clash or, they're just not the right person for you specifically. I think I forgot that a lot when I was consulting, is like, I did have that option of saying, nope, you're not right for me. And if there is that at the immediate start, it's probably best to say goodbye before you even start.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people kind of get in that, like, paralysis moment of like, okay, so that means I have to pick a niche and I have to get super specific, but like I don't feel ready to do that, or I don't feel confident to pick one thing. I like to let people off the hook a little bit in that scenario. If you're really not clear, work with some clients first to see what you gravitate towards. But if you're choosing to not pick a niche or a specialty, what I really, really highly stress you do is get super clear on what type of practitioner you are. So what you can offer other people, and then what type of clients you want to work with. So even though you're not working with a specific, say, health condition, you can still get really clear on the type of client you want to work with. So don't, leave it so general that you'll work with men, women, children, elderly, any single person, any single personality. Like, get more clear, because that's going to really take some pressure off of you. And that's going to allow you to have these like really life-giving relationships with your clients versus these draining ones that make you want to bang your head against the wall and be like, forget it, I quit.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think that's so important, is like realizing that what we do is a lot of it is passing energy on to another person, or, we're giving stuff to a client, not only physically in terms of like handouts and papers, but emotionally as well. And when we aren't in line with our clients, it becomes a really big drain. And that, I think, that's one reason why I stopped consulting, was because my energy was being depleted and I had nothing coming back from that client. Not that I wanted to take from them, but I was looking for some reward in the work that I was doing, and I wasn't getting that. And so that's ultimately why I stopped consulting myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think at times it can be draining if you're not super specific. I mean, in my coaching business, I'm very specific about the type of woman that I want to work with. I say women, there's not a lot of men in our industry, but I do gravitate like towards that female relationship and that, I guess, bond between women. So I am very clear in the women that I want to work with, because they're, I want someone that's going to show up and do the work, and someone that's excited, and someone that will, look within themselves when something comes up and actually work through it versus push it away. Like, because I've been clear on that type of person I want to work with, and I'm super specific about my niche. I work with nutritionists specifically, not health coaches, nutritionists on building their business. I've gotten very, very clear, and I have the best clients. Like, I love them all so much. I do email support and text support with them. I don't care if they text me. I obviously set boundaries, but I love each person I work with so much. And that's only because I've gotten really clear on who I want to work with. So I'm not drained constantly, because I am an introvert. I am an empath. I pick up other people's energy. And if I'm working with people who are constantly draining me, that's not only not benefiting me, it's not benefiting them, because then I'm not showing up for them in the way that they deserve.
For sure. And I think that's like everything that you just said is super important, is like, not only do they have to show up for you, but we have to show up for them. And it is an energy game in a way. So we have to be careful of that too. Do you have any more tips or tools that you want to mention that maybe we didn't cover today?
I think we covered quite a bit. I don't want to leave people with too many goals to work on now and they get overwhelmed. But no, I think I just want to leave it overall, when it comes to working with clients, like, remember that it's just as much, if not more, about them than it is about you. So just remembering that, you can take a step back a little bit, and their success isn't dependent on you. So if, you don't have to worry so much about, are they going to see results and all of that? Like, you can give them tools to actually get results, but don't worry that, it's all based on you, because that person needs to show up. So if you can switch the mindset around, I got to get that person results, and I'm going to do all the research in the world to figure out their health condition so they get the results. If you can switch from that to, if this person is showing resistance, how can I coach them through this issue or this block that they're going through to actually help them get a little bit of change going on, or to see how they can view this situation differently. So, it doesn't have to be so much on you, and don't feel bad if your first few clients don't have results or there's issues. We all have to start somewhere. And I think I said this earlier, but I just want you to remember that it's about progress, not perfection. Just like I said, I did launch my nutrition business building program, but I was so fearful of what it would turn out like. And now I can actually see it for what it is and make tweaks for anything in the future I'm doing. But if I didn't do that one thing, I would have never known how to progress and to keep learning. So for you guys, put something out there, see your client, do a workshop, whatever it is, do it once, and then always ask yourself, how can I tweak? How can I fix that experience? How can I make it better? How can I align more to what I want and what I want my business to look like? And always just be very introspective. So your business isn't running your life. You get to have some, control over the way it looks and feels. So always be checking in with yourself.
Perfect. Yeah, I really love your message. I think it's bang on. And I definitely am aligned with everything that you've said today. So how can people find you to either look at your coaching program or your nutrition programs?
Yeah, so you can go onto my website. It's www.stephanielong.ca. I'd love for you to jump on there. It shows my nutrition business building program details. It shows my private coaching details, and I am accepting clients right now before the new year as well. And there's also an opportunity to put your email in to grab a free business startup checklist, and you'll get put on my newsletter. So any information that's coming out about my client session course, which I hope to have done by the end of the year, you'll get that through the newsletter. So you can go to stephanielong.ca. I'd also love you to join me on my Facebook group, Nutrition Biz Startup. We have a great collection of people over there, a great community. I try to hop on and do Facebook Lives and do extra training in there. So I would love for you to join us in the Nutrition Biz Facebook group as well.
Amazing. Cool. And of course, we'll have links in the show notes below for anybody who needs clarification on where to find Stephanie. So thanks for joining us today, Stephanie. I think this was an amazing amount of information, and I look forward to seeing what your client session teaching tool looks like. I think it's a very important thing that's missing within our realm at the moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it will really fill that need for what would really help people to get out there and start seeing clients confidently. So thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe we'll have you on again. All right. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please support us by subscribing and leaving us a review on iTunes. If you have any topic requests or suggestions for the podcast, we'd love to hear them. Simply shoot us an email at podcasts@holisticnutritionhub.ca. That's podcasts@holisticnutritionhub.ca. To access the show notes, including the link to Stephanie's nutrition business building program and her private coaching program, simply go to holisticnutritionhub.ca/blog/P008. That's it for today, guys. Until next time, take care.